Hello, Eric St. Pierre. How are you?
Fantastic. Yourself there, Phil?
I'm doing great.
Excellent.
Yeah. Let's get right into it then.
Let's go for it.
Let's do a little notable discography referencing. Can you run me through a few album titles under the name Timeless Void?
Under the name Timeless Void, first one we had released back in 2013 was Getting By, made on a shoestring budget with very lo-fi equipment. Still love that album. After that, we had the Voidland series. So these are double albums, Voidland, Voidland 2, Voidland 3. And our latest release right now was Theory of the Sea, which is our very first official EP. We had an EP that was unofficial before Getting By, which kind of Getting By kind of stole from that old project. But total 6 released albums. And we have, again, a couple unofficial albums that we did release back. Again, one was called Younger Days, which is recordings back from Alex and I going back to high school, and then it was Renewal, but Renewal pretty much got robbed into Getting By. So Getting By, Renewal are pretty much the same thing.
When you say cheap equipment, you said first lo-fi equipment. What were you using back then?
I remember my dad purchased. Well, going back further back to the Younger Days album, that was into a little Tascam 4-track. It was a digital recorder, so everything was done in that little box. And then I'd bounce everything into Audacity to mix down. And the microphone I just borrowed mics off my dad because my dad had been recording prior, and I'd borrow one of his cheaper, older, it was an old Shure microphone, but it was high impedance, so actually wasn't a proper microphone even for the interface I was using, but it worked anyways.
Right on. You sound like you do a lot of mixing and sound engineering, do you?
Yeah. It's a passion of mine. Again, I love recording engineering. Is probably my favorite. I like being able to, again, capture sounds in weird different ways and see what I can do, what to improve each time. And that's kind of run me into a whole recording gear and gear lust, or as there's a forum called Gear Slut. I might be one of those.
Yeah. And how many other groups have you recorded as an engineer? As
an engineer, so I've recorded, other than Timeless Void, I've recorded Suburban Bicycle Gang, which used to have Joe as well, which was Jerry's brother there. I recorded them live off the floor for the rhythm sections. Back in high school, I used to do some kind of live tapings of local bands that would come into a venue called the Roxy. So I would borrow a bunch of school cameras, borrow a bunch of school portable recording boxes, and just record live bands that would come off the floor in the venue. So anything from jazz bands and a lot of ska bands I've recorded. Again, with a shoestring budget and equipment, like not the proper equipment, but we made it work.
Some getting started type of stuff, I guess. Just getting off the ground, and now you've put out a couple, or one really good album, which is under the title "Softballs Are Too Hard." Is that right?
Album. I love that album. Yeah. Love the album name. And again, how that album was named was during the recording process that Jerry actually broke his hand catching a softball. So that's where the title came from. So if anyone wants to know, Jerry broke his hand and continued to play guitar with a broken hand during that album. And he did a fantastic job.
Well, was he off work?
I'm not 100% sure on that.
Don't kill the myth.
I'm not 100% sure on that. I can't confirm or deny it, but I think Jerry would be a stubborn enough man to continue working.
Can't let recreation ruin your career.
Exactly.
Yeah. So where can you find your albums, the Timeless Void albums?
Pretty much anywhere you can stream music. So we're pretty much on all the streaming platforms, from Spotify, Apple Music, Google Music services, and pretty much that way. We don't have any physical music so much anymore. We have, again, from our earlier unreleased projects, we have some USB sticks floating around there and things like that. But as a current, one big goal for the Timeless Void is we do want to eventually get some actual physical means of music. So CDs, and hopefully in the next couple of years, maybe a vinyl.
Yeah. I have some ideas about, maybe not CDs, maybe not vinyls, maybe not that type of stuff, but maybe like a USB type of like transaction where it's like in a box and, and you kind of make it look pretty, and you give it out with the files on it.
Yep.
People are going to pirate it anyway if they like it.
Exactly.
But you still you give it to them on a sale, maybe at a show or something like that. Why do you need the CD? Why do you need the vinyl? But
again, I don't have a CD player myself. So, for example, I'm not marketing a CD to myself because I'm not in the demographic that use CDs. I use vinyl, streaming, or just use MP3s and WAV files.
Right.
So, for example, an idea that Alex and I have had for a long time was taking all of our albums, putting them on a USB stick, and call it Timeless Void Everything.
Right, that's basically the same idea that I just projected.
Exactly.
So I'm not going to take credit for it anymore. You probably thought of it before me.
I did research years back. When we did our Younger Days album, we actually did release it on a USB stick. So I got a bunch of USB sticks from a university. They're 500 megabytes. They fit, and then I went to it was the UPS store to get labels printed on the actual USB sticks, and we went to the Roxy, which was a music venue that's no longer doing music, unfortunately, in Acton, and we sold pretty much all of them that evening, except a few copies that I still have running around.
There you go. So now you got to make it very commercialized.
Yep.
That's a good start. So do you do anything besides songwriting, recording, and engineering? Or is that mainly your
Eventually,
shtick?
again, one day I wish that could be what I bring home the bacon with, but right now I bring home the bacon with another passion, that's logistics. So I've been working in warehouses for the past almost 5 years or so. Before that, it was factory work, which I bloody well hated, got out of that fairly quickly, but I love doing inventory control. I love picking. I love everything to do with warehouse work. I kind of like the nuts and bolts of things moving. I like building pallets. So the best way to describe working in warehouse, it's kind of like doing a scavenger hunt all day if you're picking, and if you're putting together, well, you're playing Tetris too. Right. I love Tetris. Otherwise, lately, again, other hobbies, again, I do like some video games, like classic video games like Age of Empires 2, the Civilization series, things like that. And other than that, I like, here, if I can show you.
Yeah, hold it up to the camera.
Let
people see your all around geekiness.
Yeah, I like collecting coins, silver coins. So
right.
That's Lady Liberty there from the States, American Silver Eagle. And
what is that coin? Is that like a dollar? Or
that's a $50.
It's a $50. 50 cents right there, everybody. 50 cents.
1945.
There you go.
So one of my little hobbies here. Take another one. So 1939, Canadian dollar. Again, back in 1960, these were minimum wage. You get one of these an hour, but 80% silver in that. So one of those now melt value is almost $20. So you, generally speaking, back in 1960, minimum wage
was it right there.
That was it.
Yeah.
It was a livable wage. So another little side hobby of mine. I like collecting.
Hard to believe that we complain today about our wages.
Well, hey, if that dollar melt value now is worth $20, minimum wage, $1 is fine. You could live off $1 an hour, no problem.
Yeah. Not anymore.
Nope. Inflation.
Barely live off of 15. So
I know.
So what kind of family did you evolve in, and how did it bring you into a prolific music production? Can you tie that in a little bit?
Oh yeah. So my parents were both born in Timmins, Ontario, although they kind of moved around Ontario a bit, but my dad especially was all over the country because my grandfather was a logger. So my dad had moved 26 times before he was like 20 or something like that. So always moving, never made a solid group of friends and things like that. But he got into guitar when he was 17, had a friend really show him a lot of music. So when he first got into music, he loved all the 80s hair metal. He didn't know anything more than 80s hair metal, like Poison, Cinderella. That's what he loved. Then he had a buddy who showed him all the older stuff. So the classic rock like Zeppelin, Hendrix, all of this stuff. Got him into recording a bit. And so when I was a baby, this is going back to 93, 94, 95, 96, I remember my dad working on his own music. At first, he had a little 4-track, then he upgraded to a 8-track reel-to-reel. So very first recordings of me talking, there's still tracks of me and my cousin bugging each other on an 8-track reel-to-reel and some old cassettes as well. So again, what got me interested is watching my dad be able to actually produce songs on his own, do all the parts, all on an 8-track reel-to-reel. And again, the song sounded great. Really good.
So that's the audio side, but maybe the kind of context of your upbringing is where I was kind of going for.
Okay, fair enough. Better question. So I was born up in Sudbury, Ontario. Was up there till I was about 2 or 3, because my dad eventually, pretty much when I was first born, he's like, oh crap. Both my parents were still in college when they had me. They both had to cut their college degrees short. They still got their degrees, but they had to take lesser degrees. My dad went to go work for Ford down in Oakville, so he'd actually go to Southern Ontario, where my mom had me up in Sudbury till they could find a place down south. When they eventually moved down south, my mom got a job working for Caterpillar. Again, both of them are still at those companies today. My mom's still working for Caterpillar Financial, helping making loans for machinery and whatnot. So pretty much eventually we moved into a little small town of Waterdown, which is not really a small town anymore. It's kind of blown up. What makes me laugh is I drive by that little town. It has Audacity having this giant ass water tower saying Village of Waterdown, but there's like 10,000 people in this town. So it's not a village anymore. It was a village maybe 50 years ago.
Now it's a town.
Now it's a town.
Yep.
But again, the family life was good. My parents raised me, I think, well, I'm biased, well.
Well, in what context? Maybe was it a religious home, non-religious, atheist?
I had a French Catholic upbringing in terms of schooling, but both my parents were pretty much astute atheists. My dad was always going, Eric, there is no God. Eric, there is no God. There is no God. So that was kind of my upbringing coming from that perspective. So by the time I hit 18, back in Catholic school, I used to bug the teachers saying, my dad says there's no God. And I'd get in trouble, get really low marks in religion class. Wasn't really good. So
your dad's listening to Poison, and he's poisoning your mind.
Well, he wasn't listening to Poison and all those hair bands when I was little. He was into Zeppelin and some of the older stuff by that time.
Okay.
He got out of all those poisoning mind bands for the most part.
Interesting. I like that. Do you like those bands? You like the Poison and... Yeah.
In doses.
Yeah.
I do like some 80s hair metal here in doses, but again, what I say my favorite music is stuff from the late 60s and the early 70s. That's when they had, in my subjective opinion, the best recording gear, the best songwriters, and the best time in the industry for artists to kind of have their own voice without having song pitchers be able to provide songs. Because before, in the 50s and the early 60s, you had all these groups, but none of these groups were really writing their own material, and generally not even recording their own material. They had a lot of session players do it. In the late 60s and early 70s, you had actual singer-songwriters pop up. You actually had bands that were collaborating and writing their own stuff, not just wrote what other songwriters had pitched them. Mm-hmm. So that's where my heart resides, is late 60s and 70s, especially psychedelic rock and all that stuff.
Yeah, I hear a lot of that in your music.
That's kind of what I'm trying to go for.
Psychedelic rock, maybe some folk in there, and yeah. So you did release an EP recently, and it's called what's it called?
Theory of the Sea.
Theory of the Sea, and there's a song on there, and you have your sister.
Yep.
Your sister singing the title track.
Yep.
Tell me about this album.
So the EP was actually, funny part is I have another double album I was working on at the time, and I was getting the tracks lined up for the double album. And during the pandemic, I was saying, I got to release an album. I was going to go and release a double album. But the double album right now is in a state where don't have all the drums ready for it. It's pretty much, the songs themselves are pretty much mixed and ready to go. Just need to get some proper drummer to get some real drums, because I use an electronic drum beat to get some of the songs together, which was good for a little while using, but you kind of get sick of a drum machine after a while. It's always good having a real set of drums going.
Yeah, I like to have a couple songs on my albums with some electronic feels.
Exactly. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. But if you have a whole double album and it's electronic drums for like 20 tracks in a row, sometimes could have a real player for certain points. And again, last album we did, Voidland 3, there was a lot of electronic drums on there. So I use this pedal called the Beat Buddy, which had all these pre-programmable drums. You just kind of use it with a foot and just play it that way. So I'd record in the drums that way, and it worked for the most part. But there's something to be said about actually having moving air with a drum kit. But Theory of the Sea itself was actually just trimmings that didn't make the cut for that double album. So I had songs going back to even 3 years ago that I'm like going, oh my God, I forgot about the song. Because in the last few years, I've recorded at least 150 to 200 tracks. So it's easy to lose things. So I took the tracks that I didn't want to lose, and I made sure I encapsulated them on the EP.
So 150 of your own Timeless Void tracks, or like of all the artists that you're working with?
That'd be just for the Timeless Void.
Oh, wow. So
There's a lot of songs that don't make the cut.
Yeah.
A lot of demos, a lot of rough ones. There's songs I go, wow, where did that come from? I forgot about that.
Yeah, definitely. You go any deeper into like what drove you to bring your sister onto the title track, and instead of you, I haven't heard you have anyone else sing on your songs so far, but I mean I'm sure that you have. But
I'll put it this way: she's talented. I love her voice and her songwriting ability. She is a very talented woman, and she actually is more. I don't want to discredit her music ability, but when it comes to visuals, art, she is an amazing artist. I can't. I don't think I've met a person who can do better art than she's been able to do. Since growing up, I was always jealous for her art abilities, and when I was learning guitar, so was she. We both started learning guitar around the same time.
Is this something that we can expect from your music in the future, or is this just a one-off?
Could be a one-off because, again, visual art is her passion. That's where she puts her effort in. It was hard getting her to sit down to record a song in the first place. I recorded that just because she had some songs. I kind of bugged her. Hey, Kayla, I know you have some good songs. Let me record one for posterity. And eventually I was able to get her to record that song. So
that's her song.
That is her song. Okay. She wrote that whole song. That was recorded live off the floor in my apartment. And I just set up 2 microphones, one on her acoustic, one on her voice. I said, go for it. Do whatever you want. Have at it. And that's what she came up with. And she wrote the song again before, but first track, no revisions, nothing. That was the performance.
Oh. And that's her guitar playing.
That's her guitar playing. That's her singing.
Yeah.
That's all her. Pretty much I just set up the mics and let her go. So why I put that on the album is because I wanted to share her talent with other people, because she doesn't have the confidence in her singing and her guitar playing, unfortunately.
Well, she should.
I know. She should. Indeed.
Yeah. And then there was a few instrumentals on that album.
Yep.
That were very effective.
Yep. One day I do want to release just an instrumental album. It's been a long-standing goal of mine, but I'd say I could make 10 instrumentals in a day without a stop. Instrumentals I can live and breathe them. So
once you get to the lyrics, are you a little bit more judgmental of yourself, or what you're trying to say? You care about it? Yeah, I always want to have some kind of positive message or have some kind of takeaway. Sometimes my songs can be very fear, dreading, and loathing quite often, but I always like having some kind of lesson or some kind of deeper meaning in the song. Some songs I have, I'll honestly say they're fluff pieces. Everyone has them. But I do like having some deeper meaning in songs. So if I don't feel like I have something worthwhile, I don't really bother to put lyrics. Sometimes you can make the guitar say what you mean, if that makes any sense. Yeah, if it's like, I think in emotional context. Exactly. Right? You can explore any emotion with instruments. Yep. But when you want to talk context, then you might need some words. Oh yeah, words can certainly help. All right. So this song, I guess, is your sister's song. That it is. And what's it about? I'd have to ask her. I don't have a clear answer. Go through the whole recording. Yeah. You left it to the interpretation. Exactly. Generally speaking, whenever I write songs myself, I always try to keep it open-ended. Always try to make sure it's not just from my perspective. I take something for myself, but I write it from empathy. So I make sure that other people can connect to it too. Actually, some of the best tools for songwriting I found in life is when your life is not giving the experience you like, look at others. Generally, people are going through crap. And if you can empathize with them, sometimes you can get some of the best songs through empathy, through looking through other people's shoes. People you might even hate or disagree with fundamentally that you don't like. If you can put yourself in their shoes, you can write some beautiful music that way. And through that, you can understand other people's perspectives a lot better. Mm-hmm. A tool for educating yourself with interpersonal relationships, I guess. Yep. Okay, so that's very interesting. So which song are you going to play for us today? I am going to play I Am the Liquor. I Am the Looker or the Liquor? The Liquor. The Liquor, you know. Like the liquor. Alcohol. Oh, yeah. So it's like a Trailer Park Boys title? Oh, yeah. So this song was written on a floor scrubber at Haztec. So it was North End of Guelph, Linamar Factory, one of the worst jobs I ever had in my life. But the one value out of that job was I had to sit my ass down on a floor scrubber for 2 hours a day. So I found out I could write a lot of lyrics. I still have a pile, and
about yay big, and it's all written on QA orange little cardboard pieces of paper, sort of. And I would just stream of consciousness write lyrics all the time. And there's probably 70% of those lyrics I can still dig back for and find something of value. But yeah, I'd be singing along, just writing things down on the floor. And that one, I wrote all the lyrics with that one. And I was having trouble with that one for a long time because I wanted to be able to bring it somewhere, but I just couldn't get the melody right. I couldn't get the rhythm. So eventually I brought that song to work with whatever project, which I worked with Dave Fox. And he's the one who got the melody and the guitar parts going. Once that got together, the song just made itself.
So would you consider this a co-write?
Yeah. I wrote the lyrics, but when it comes to a lot of the musical content, I'll credit Dave for, again, the guitar playing and the vocal melodies.
On the Timeless Void.
Actually, that was a whatever track.
This is whatever. Okay, so you're playing a whatever track called?
I Am the Liquor.
I Am the Liquor.
Yes.
Okay. And this song is about being connected to the alcohol in a positive way or a uncontrollable way?
I would say it's not a positive song. It's a funny song. It's sarcastic in a way, but the song has an undertone of it's a cry for help in a way. Again, and not from my experience. I fortunately haven't delved in alcoholism, but I've seen other people who have. So it's a song crying for help for people who have alcohol issues. Because again, I've seen alcohol destroy people in my life, and it's not great. It's a terrible thing. So it's where it's kind of making light of it. The song doesn't make light of it. It kind of gets to the point where there is a downside and a dark side to fun and alcohol and all that jazz.
Mm-hmm. Have you experienced any of the said above tragedy in your life from the perspective of, digesting this stuff?
Oh, I've had some bad experiences drinking myself, yes. I remember one recording session I was working with Alex Hilson and Dave, and I brought a bottle of gin. My buddy Alex brought a bottle of brandy, and Dave had a bunch of various liquor there too. So I drank beer, I drank the brandy, and some of my gin. But when I got to Alex's brandy, it was actually not brandy, sorry. Misquoted. It was Scotch because he just went to Scotland, got a good taste for Scotch, and he brought one of the most delicious Scotches I can remember. Problem is, I drank it like water.
Is he Scottish? Are you Scottish?
Nope.
Neither of you.
He is English.
English.
Tried and true.
Right. Brought back some Scotch, and then you pounded back, and I'm guessing you ended up over the toilet?
Yeah, the next morning. So it did not sit well at all. The ironic thing is, this is another song, but alcoholism we recorded that night was called Pacified. So we were writing a song about being extremely hungover, and ironically enough, the recording session, that's what we were doing. We were pounding our livers that night.
A little bit of Julius Caesar pacifying the perimeter of your mind.
Yes.
By the end of the night.
Taking out those Gallic tribes in my head right up here, right? Siege of Alicia going on later on in the toilet.
I was just wondering to see if you kind of put a little bit of yourself into this song that you're going to
always find bits of myself. You have to.
So would you say you're a humorous person? You like to add that into the music pretty regularly? I
like serious music. I like to write deep, serious things about issues. So a lot of my songs, I'll say, are depressing and very fear and loathing inspired. They're very dark because a lot of my songs are complaints.
Oh, you're a complainer.
Oh, generally speaking, I wish I could say no, but everyone is to an extent. So writing music is a way for me to get a lot of my toxic emotions out. Because once they're out on paper and I've sang them, it seems a little bit silly now.
But I appreciate you doing this.
Thank you so much, Phil. It's been a pleasure.
I think we should do it again.
Yep.
Go into a little bit more depth into some of the older music and the future music.
Certainly can. Cool. It's been a pleasure.
So, without further ado, Eric St. Pierre with his song,
I Am the Liquor.
We've hit
dinner and reach Derby, for we drink on, knowing what we see. Pass me back my bottle of gin. Without it I can never crack a grin. I am the liquor, the one in control. Drink me quicker. Now I am the liquor and I've taken charge. Drink me quicker. Now pussy sips. Come over here, child. Let's spread the truth. We'll step on some toes. Who fucking cares? We'll stumble around and fall into the ground. Our perceptions distort, and a tempest flare. I am the liquor, the one in control. Drink me quicker. Now I am the liquor and I'm taking charge. Drink me quicker. Now pussy sips. It's taking over my reasonable brain. It's taking over my unreasonable brain. I've lost control.